We're going to take a few minutes to review the ranked choice voting and its history here in Fort Collins. Down in 2011, Eric Fried got RCV on the ballot after trying since 2008. The campaign was largely funded by out-of-state dark money. I've got to find out exactly how much was spent, but you were outspent. And ranked choice voting was overwhelmingly defeated from 61 to 31%. But it's back. The same group that brought it in 2011 is back trying to get it using the same claims that ranked choice voting guarantees a majority winner, that it increases turnout, that it saves money, and believe it or not, makes campaigns more civil. These are all rehashed ideas and recycled claims from 2011. But in 2011, just 12 of the 83 precincts in Fort Collins supported ranked choice voting. It was overwhelmingly defeated. But we're going to take a closer look and see what's behind the curtain. Because the RCV promoters don't want you to see this stuff. So first and foremost, ranked choice voting does not guarantee a winner with a majority. And it doesn't even increase turnout. It actually has lowered turnouts in many cities. And disadvantaged ethnic and older voters make more errors with ranked choice voting. And election administration costs skyrocket because you're constantly having to spend money on educating the voters on how to vote with ranked choice voting so they don't make errors. And it does nothing to clean up campaigns. But let's take a look at the big selling point. Majority. So Merriam-Webster says that a majority is the number or percentage equaling more than half the total number or a majority of the voters. But here's the big bait and switch. Ranked choice voting Fort Collins promises a majority winner, but it doesn't talk about how majority is redefined in their counting rules. Not all the voters that voted in that election are used to determine the majority or the turnout. So let's take a look at the fine print. They do, however, talk about how the votes are tallied, and they say it's going to be a majority of the active ballots. So the active ballots are the ballots that had not been thrown out in the counting process. And ranked choice voting does throw out many, many ballots from voters that voted that day. In fact, the Ninth Circuit Federal Court, Judge Berzon said, no matter how you look at it, RCV is not a majority vote, it's a plurality vote. It's still a plurality system. And the Deputy City Attorney says, I agree with you. It does not guarantee a majority. That's absolutely true. Let's take a look at one of San Francisco's ranked choice voting results. This is District 10. That's actually the spreadsheet used to determine who the winner are. But let's do a deeper dive into it. Let's go and take a closer look. So I've split it up so you can kind of see it. But the key item was that about 17,000 voters came out to vote that day. And 2.8 made mistakes right off the ballot in the first round. So out of 17,808 voters, after 20 rounds, the winner received just 4,321 votes, or about 24.3%. In fact, this candidate was in third place in the first round of voting. And take a look. We have actually 9,503 exhausted ballots, or ballots that were thrown out and not counted. That's more than what the winner received in this ranked choice voting election after doing recounts for 20 rounds. So these ballots are thrown out or exhausted under instant runoff voting, also known as ranked choice voting. And in this report by Professors Burnett and Kogan, they examined 600,000 ballots. And as a result of ballot exhaustion, the winner in all their cases received less than a majority of the total votes cast, raising serious concerns about ranked choice voting and challenges a key argument made by the system's proponents. So let's take a look at the turnout myth. After the first ranked choice voting election, the Minneapolis Council president said voter turnout was worst in nearly 100 years. The last time we had such a low percentage was before women had a right to vote. The next election that they had, they felt, well, maybe we will have a bigger turnout because it was an open mayoral seat. Minneapolis prepared for a voter turnout of 75%, meaning they hired election judges, people to work that day because they were expecting a 75% turnout because ranked choice voting increases the turnout, when in fact the actual results on that day was a 33% turnout, not the 75 that they had predicted. In fact, Professor Jason McDaniel in San Francisco has done research, and his analysis reveals a significant relationship between ranked choice voting and decreased voter turnout among black and white voters, younger voters, and voters who lacked a high school education. Ranked choice voting did not have a significant impact on more experienced voters, those that had the highest levels of education and interest in the political process. So if you're rich and you're very active in politics, you will come out to vote. But ranked choice voting depresses other turnout. Let's take a look at the costs and confusion with ranked choice voting. First of all, you have to teach people how to vote and spend money on doing that. Voter errors is voter disenfranchisement. So the more errors and more people that make errors on their ballots, their votes are not counted. And those are the older voters, the less educated minorities and English as second language have a much higher error rate. And you'll see from the proponents, the people that are trying to sell you ranked choice voting, exit pollings where they'd ask people, oh, how well did you think you did? Did you understand it fully? Well, self-reporting is notoriously wrong. You really have to have the researchers look at the ballots to see how many were spoiled and whatnot. You just can't ask somebody if they felt that they understood it. Looking at the ballots and seeing who made the errors, who spoiled them, gives the best indication. Let's take a look at some examples. So Santa Fe, New Mexico spent $350,000 on voter education for ranked choice voting. In that mayor's race, there was just about 20,000 voters that came out. Now, contrast that to Fort Collins, where they had about 38,000 voters come out at the last mayoral election. But how did it work? How well did it work? They spent $350,000 for 20,000 voters, but they had a 650% increase in spoiled ballots from the previous mayoral race. You can see in 2014, in a traditional election, there were just 136 spoiled ballots. In the 2018, over 900 spoiled ballots. And that's after spending $350,000 to teach people how to vote and not make errors. Let's take a look at Oakland, California. So Oakland spent $3.30 per voter contact in historically disadvantaged neighborhoods. Lower income neighborhood had upwards to 10% errors on their ballots. Let's take a look and see the different precincts and what the houses look like. So on the left-hand side, you can see a very nice house, manicured lawn. People that live in these houses had an error rate of no higher than 2%. But the other historically disadvantaged neighborhoods had errors upwards to 10% with ballot errors. So that led to a repeal effort in Oakland. And let's just take a look at what the council member said. Whereas the controversial ranked choice voting system has disenfranchised and confused many Oakland voters even after spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on voter education. And ranked choice voting resulted in increased negative campaigning and gaming of the election system. Studies indicate that voters most likely to be disenfranchised and making voting mistakes are the poor, elderly, non-English speaking, and minority voters. That clearly says what is ranked choice voting all about. Oh, I should have pressed that earlier. Let's take a look in Aspen, Colorado, which had repealed ranked choice voting. The city clerk says that there was 168 spoiled ballots on that election day when 2 is typical. So it's not as easy as people think it is or say it is. Here's a spoiled ballot rate for Minneapolis. They have some places where, let's see, Ward 5 had upwards to 14.3% spoiled ballots with ranked choice voting, when before they only had 2%. Let's take a look and see the neighborhoods here. So on the upper right, you have a very, very nice, affluent neighborhood. They had a election spoiled ballot rate of less than 2%. But take a look at the others. The public housing had upwards to past 7%. Another area of town had Ward 5, Precinct 7, 2013 special or ranked choice voting spoiled ballot rate was over 12%. That led to the ACLU coming out and would not support ranked choice voting because of these things. And in Minneapolis, they state that nearly 10% of all ranked choice voting ballots were not counted, and most of those were in the low-income communities of color. In New York City, the New York City Council Black, Latino, and Asian Caucus came out against ranked choice voting for that same reason, that it hurts candidates and communities of colors. It has a negative impact on them. Take a look at whether it cleans up any campaigns. This is from the East Bay Express. The knives are out in San Leandro. These are the headlines of the local paper. The one thing that you want to point out is they did talk about the conventional wisdom that ranked choice voting debuting in Oakland would have a more friendly discourse amongst the candidates, but such utopian dreams, though, seem to have skipped San Leandro. Let's take a look at another town that has used ranked choice voting. The false promises that it is going to make it a nicer campaign. Oh, that one should have stuck around there. That's how we do that one. Okay, gotta fix that. London forecasts to be a more conciliatory tone because of ranked choice voting. Let's take a look at some of the hit pieces that have been put out. And this is in Minneapolis. Philippe Cunningham, an inexperienced politician who wants to raise taxes. Ginger Jensen's plan for Minneapolis workers and families are nuts. So much for a nicer campaign. St. Paul, another hit piece here. And in fact, there's been charges of using homophobic tactics. And this is in a town that uses ranked choice voting. So it really does nothing to clean up the campaigns. Let me see another example. So here we go. Oakland again. Will negative messages overshadow usual cordial mayor's race? So much for the idea that ranked choice voting would deliver a kinder, gentler, issue-oriented campaign. It just doesn't happen. So after all of this, we need to determine what exactly are we trying to solve here. We have shown that ranked choice voting's claims are demonstrably false. We have seen that ranked choice voting disenfranchises the less sophisticated voters. And once again, Fort Collins needs to vote no on ranked choice voting.